Hello there, my friend. Welcome to another episode of Talk Music Talk with Boice. I am Boice. This is my podcast you are listening to. Talk Music Talk is a weekly music interview podcast where I have long-form conversations with people connected to music from different genres, from different backgrounds, both established and emerging, all genres of music. Musicians, singers, singer-songwriters, music therapists, music journalists. And on this new episode, I had the pleasure of speaking to Gocco, singer-songwriter, visual artist, British-born, Brooklyn-based. She has a new song and video out called New Century Meet from her forthcoming EP. I was introduced to her music by Howard Elper, who played drums on my debut album, How to Be an Adult. He is working on Gocco's music. In this conversation, we talk about a host of things, including her background, both musically and visually. We talk about her influences, thoughts on collaboration. We talk about communicating with others using our creativity, also accepting and learning from criticism. And also, you will find out her mother's connection to David Bowie. That's right. After the interview, you will hear New Century Meet right after the conversation. So here it is. Without further ado, my interview with Gocco. Enjoy. You're a visual artist, right?
Mm-hmm.
And music artist?
Yes.
What came first?
What came first?
Yes.
Well, I've always drawn. My parents have a picture that I drew when I was 0 years old. So potentially...
9, you said?
0 years old.
0, okay.
Yeah, like I think it just says, she didn't write months. My mum didn't write months. She just wrote 0 years old.
Okay.
So I guess maybe the drawing came first.
Mm-hmm.
But I come from a musical family, so music was just around me naturally anyway.
Mm-hmm. When were you aware of the drawing and music stuff?
The drawing, the music stuff. Well, the drawing, I think, was just, it's just always been a way that I've expressed myself. I was a very quiet child.
Okay.
So I think it just helped me to focus and expand on what I was dreaming about and that kind of thing by being able to draw.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's been a huge part of my life. And the music, like I said, I've just been surrounded by music and I love to sing. I love to write. I've always loved to write, even as a kid.
Yeah.
But I kind of hid it a little bit because I was kind of embarrassed.
Okay. No one knew? Like you hid it from family, friends? Or?
I hid it from my family and my friends. But I did listen to a lot of music when I was growing up as well. Yeah, and I kind of sang in my bedroom, probably like all teenagers do.
Okay. Did you, siblings, only child?
Just me.
Okay, same here.
Yeah, I had to keep myself entertained.
Yes, yeah. Did you like being an only child?
I liked being an only child. I kind of wished maybe I had an older brother that I could play video games with, but it was too late.
Okay. What did you like about being an only child?
What did I like being about an only child?
Yeah.
I liked my quiet time. I like being able to be inside my own head without any distractions. And I think that helped me focus. And when I was drawing as a kid, you know, like I think it's nice when you have siblings you can play with and stuff. Yeah. And that's another way of being creative. But I kind of had no choice. So, yeah, that was nice.
Yeah,
you know, I was given my own space to think and be creative with no distractions.
Okay. Did your parents ever try to, I know sometimes people try to make the introverted child extroverted. Did your parents ever try to do that?
Not really. No, they just,
We have a meowing
we
cat.
have a little cat here. They never really did that. I think they believed in my artwork and they just encouraged me to continue doing it. Yeah, so I had a supportive family in that respect.
Where were you drawing, painting?
Drawing. Yeah, mostly drawing, although I did a lot of animation as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did you do the animation on?
How?
Yeah, like computer program?
On the computer,
Okay.
yeah. When I was younger, when I was actually a kid though, I used to make paper characters and use my parents' VHS tape and do stop motion animations. And I also used to do stop motion animations I used to have these little dolls called Sylvanian families. I think they're still around now.
Okay.
And I would make little diorama sets in my bedroom and do stop motion animation. But because the VHS camera wasn't really meant to do that, sometimes it would just kind of override the last 10 seconds or something. I'd be like, no, I spent 2 hours doing that.
Where did you learn stop motion?
Well, I just kind of guessed.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just kind of, I would press the button twice really quickly so I could film a frame at a time. So by the time I was older and computers came about, I did things on the computer and used software to do that. And I did that at my university as well.
Okay. And what did the singing look like? Did you were singing or playing instruments? I
sang, Asian parents, so I was forced to play piano, which I hated at the time. I'm glad I did. And also forced to play the flute, which I hated, but I'm glad I did now.
Okay.
And I wanted to play a guitar, but for some reason my parents were really against me playing the guitar. Because maybe it's not a proper instrument. I have no idea.
Is that considered a boy's instrument or?
Well, I don't know if it's like it is a classic instrument. But it's not an orchestral instrument.
Okay, so.
I don't really know what the criteria was. It was kind of.
They were thinking orchestra.
I have no idea. No idea. I think they had an idea of what instruments would be good for me to play.
Okay.
But I have no idea. Yeah. So I did learn to play a little bit, but actually it was only really after college that I actually had the money to buy my own guitar for myself. Okay. So I wouldn't consider myself a guitarist, but I play the guitar and I have a couple that I used to compose and write music with.
Okay. And when you started writing the music with the guitar?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when were you singing? When did you start that? That was an always thing?
So I've always sang, but I only really started to sing, in public, probably into my 20s as I got into college. Okay. Yeah. And actually, I think there was a trigger for that, actually. I applied to a singing competition when I was 19, and I got through, and I was on television.
Okay.
And it was fun. I really enjoyed it. And, I kind of thought, wow, this is really fun. And actually, both my parents sing on stage. Yeah. I guess this is what it feels like.
Okay.
So I think that's what kick-started it really for me.
Where was this at, and what was the show?
It was a Japanese singing competition, and they do it every week. It's like a really old school kind of TV program, but they come to London for this London special. Okay. And my friend told me about it and was like, "Oh, you should apply. It'd be really fun." And so I passed, and I was one of the final contestants who actually got airplay.
Okay. And so for the audition, like how many auditions, or what was the process?
It was just one. You kind of turn up. You turn up, and there's a whole day of auditions where they audition hundreds of people who just kind of go through, and they pick. And maybe it was 12 people. Can't remember, something like that.
So were like you waiting in like an extremely long queue?
Yeah, I think I can't remember exactly, but I think there was a number. And you kind of come back on your allotted time slot or something like that.
Were you nervous, or did you feel comfortable, confident in your singing?
At the time, when I was 19?
Yeah. Like, where was your level there?
Oh, I think I was very, 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 very shy, and I had never sung in public before. Yeah. So from that to suddenly going on TV was daunting, but I enjoyed it, and I made a couple of really close friends from that time as well. So I'm glad I did it.
So what was it? You do the show. So what was you do the audition, then what's the process from, how long was that between?
Oh, it's just like, it was just one-off show, and then the winner goes to the final that's in Japan and that kind of thing. It was just funny though, 'cause this Japanese show coming to London of all places.
What's the name of the show?
It's called Nodo Jiman.
Okay.
Which a lot of Japanese people know about. Probably no one else in the world knows about at all.
So are you like a mini celebrity when that
No,
aired?
not at all. No, not at all. No, it
You?
wasn't like that. It was like, I guess a little bit like America's Got Talent or something.
Okay.
You know, sort of us normal people just kind of turning up and trying their best, and everyone's shaking and nervous.
Okay. So that kickstarted. So what happens that you do that, and then what happens then after you?
So I
do
met,
the show?
I made a lot of friends going on that show, and we started going karaoke together and that kind of thing, which is nice because I never had any friends who I could sing with because I was a closet musician in my teenage years, and so I met a few musicians just kind of randomly, just by chance through that, and then I ended up being a vocalist with a couple of musicians that I met, and I guess that kind of started my music, me becoming actually kind of serious about it. So I was in college by then, and deathly serious about my art more than anything, but I realized that art, that music is just another material, another tool that you can use as a form of self-expression.
Okay. Because it's like coming from the same source.
Yeah, exactly. So, I guess that's kind of where it started.
Okay.
And then, I've just been in various different kinds of genres of bands and groups and that kind of thing up until now. Okay. Because I don't really like just one kind of music. I listen to everything pretty much.
Okay. And where'd you go to college at?
So I went to Central St Martin's in London, which is a great place. It really just promotes creativity and thinking, but really challenging yourself and not just sticking to the same ideas all the time, not being safe about your ideas. And, it's also quite a harsh environment in terms of critique too. So I think that really formed a big part of the kind of adult I became afterwards too.
And what was your art? You were drawing and...
Yes, I did illustration, which involved... I made a lot of storybooks and paintings. I also did animations, and I would write and record music for the animations, for instance, as well. Yeah, but it was around about then that I started to play in the London underground music scene as well.
Okay. And how was it for you with the critiques? Was that hard to handle at
No,
first?
I actually really like feedback, honest feedback.
Yeah.
I really don't like it when people just give you niceties. I just don't think it's very useful.
Yeah.
And I think you have to be more grateful when somebody gives you insights that they're actually, that are actually helpful to your growth.
Okay.
So, yeah, I kind of thrive on that kind of thing.
Was there like a continuous critique that you were told that you had to work on?
I would sometimes fall into a pattern of trying to use the same materials or same style. And so when I would notice those patterns, I would just try and break free and just use a different medium, for instance. So I think actually that is reflective of maybe the kinds of music that I've worked on as well, because, I'll be like, oh, okay, maybe I'll try a bit of punk. That was fun. Maybe I'll try joining like a psychedelic sunshine harmonizing girls band or something. That was nice too. And then maybe I'll try this and maybe try that. And I think it's been, over the years, it's been a kind of self-discovery of what kind of music is best fitting to express, what you want to say at the time. Okay.
And what were you listening to during this period?
When I was younger, I used to listen to a lot of jazz because my parents didn't really, they're musicians, so they're a bit of, they're kind of snobbish about the music that they listen to. So there was lots of Weather Report and Al Jarreau when I was growing up around me. And then, of course, my parents' music. But then I rebelled in my teenage years and was like, I'm going to listen to music with guitars in it. Yeah. So, I think there was one momentous moment when I was going to school where there was this really cool Muslim girl in the year above me, and she was you can't tell because she's wearing a headscarf, but she was kind of punk. And she had like a really rebellious streak, and she had purple hair underneath her headscarf. She was really cool. And she said to me, "Hey, do you know this band called Radiohead?" Okay. And I'm like, "No." What's that? Sounds kind of cool. And she lent me Paranoid Android. Okay. Oh wait, no, she lent me OK Computer. Okay. I think she played Paranoid Android to me, and then she lent me OK Computer. And I was completely blown away. I was like, this is so incredible. Just the way it paints imagery in your mind just by listening to it. I was so completely blown away. Okay. So I think I've always really liked kind of philosophical, slightly sad, morose kind of music as well. So I think it started there. I ended up listening to a lot of David Bowie as well later on, because I can't remember how I discovered David Bowie. So I didn't really have any musical friends around me growing up either. So everything I came across just happened by chance. And then one day I was listening to the Scary Monsters album, and I kind of looked at the cover. Yeah. And I read on the back, and it had my mum's name on it. And I was a bit like, what? And then I kind of went downstairs to see my mum, and I was like, "Mum, do you know David Bowie?" Yeah. And she was like, "Oh, yeah, but I don't really like his music." Okay. So that was when I found out that she was on his album. I think I was kind of like, "You never said anything." And she was like, "Yeah, I don't really like rock music. Okay. What is this rubbish?" Yeah.
So it was just like a gig for her.
Yeah, it was just a gig.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
Okay. So she never mentioned, did she have any Bowie stories after that? Okay.
Nothing. I think it was just a thing. Yeah, she was like, "Oh, yeah, fine." Okay. He was nice. I think she said he was nice.
So what was that like for you to find out your mom was, It's No Game, right?
Yeah, It's No Game Part 1. She's like the mysterious woman on that album. And I was kind of like, wow, that's so cool. But then also I was a teenager, so I was like, wow. Yeah. I just kind of, you didn't even say anything. But yeah, I guess after that, I listened to a bit of Sonic Youth, and then I kind of went into a little bit of a metal phase. Just everything, pretty much a little bit of everything. If somebody passes something my way, it's like, you have to listen to this. I'm always like, yeah, okay. If it's something that, even if I don't like it, I just want to listen to it to see what maybe I'll kind of learn to like it, or if there's a genre that maybe I haven't listened to so much before, I don't know, I never really had any friends around me who listened to hip hop. So I was like, maybe I should listen to some Tupac or some Q-Tip. I'll listen to some Q-Tip. So, and I think you can learn from all musicians, all artists have some important message to say. And I think there's so much to learn from them.
So where were you? You said you trying on different styles for your own music. Was it that they weren't fitting perfectly, or you were just searching?
I think I was just searching, just for the right thing. And then it would get to the point where I guess I'd get bored. Yeah. Or just feel like this doesn't really feel like me anymore. But it's taken a very long time. But I think now I've finally come to a place where I've absorbed enough, and I feel like, I think this really feels like me. So yeah, really happy with where the style is, and I can't remember what the genre is that we were told it kind of was. Genres are kind of a little bit arbitrary, aren't they?
Yeah. We've had this conversation before. Yeah.
Exactly. You're like, is it avant-pop? Is it
and even then it doesn't tell you exactly. Yeah. What does that mean?
What does that mean? What is synthwave?
Yeah, I don't know.
What is synthwave? I don't know. What's avant pop? I guess it's not pop, and it's avant
it's not too out there, but
it's not too somewhere in between.
Yeah, it has a hook maybe that avant does not. Okay. So how did what made like this, what you're doing, your avant pop quote? It feels right.
It feels right.
Yeah.
What
like how'd you get to that? Like it's the people you're working with, or like the songs you finally like?
Yeah. So actually, I think I work with a couple of producers, Howard Alper and Ki Chung. We just have a really great rapport working with each other when we write together. Just the way we bounce ideas together and everything. I feel like, and there's so much trust between us too, and so. When Howard was like, I really like your lyrics, they're he was really interested in the meaning and what was behind this, the story behind them and everything. I just felt like it naturally evolved into something that really, really worked and felt really, really right. So I think always, it's the people that you collaborate with that really make the thing that it is. And I think I'm just very lucky right now.
Is it that do you bring songs to them and then they work on them that way, or are you sitting in a room together coming up with them?
So we all kind of write stuff in a very different way, and we all have different kinds of strengths. So on one song, for instance, which will be on the EP when we release it, I had written it really with just myself singing and playing on the guitar. But I've never really been a fan of the singer-songwriter folksy. I mean, I like it for other people, just not for myself. But like I said, I play the guitar as a means to write and articulate, the chord progressions, that kind of thing. So I had this song that I'd written quite a while ago, actually. And I was saying to the guys, hey, I have this song I've written, but I don't want you to hear the guitars because it will give you a very strong idea of what the rhythm should be like. Okay. And, like I have pedals and stuff that I use. I don't want that to affect your idea of what the song should be like. So I'm just going to send you the vocal line on its own and see what you think. So I sent them just the vocal line, and he was like, oh, this is really interesting. I like the way, the song kind of flows and the different, notes that you're using. So he kind of came up with this glitchy digital sound that was a little bit ghost-like to accompany the song, and it sounds completely different to how, in my mind, even the sort of backbeat and stuff. And so, that's how that song was really, it came to form. Yeah. So that's one way, for instance. Or maybe Howard, who's an incredible drummer as well, he'll come to me with a beat and say, hey, I kind of came up with this really interesting beat. Do you think you could do something with it? So a couple of times, I think, I took one of Howard's sketches for a beat and turned that into a song. Okay. And then, it'd be passed around and Key would, work on the sounds, and he would really kind of, find the right, vibe for it, I suppose. So it's a really interesting collaborative process.
Okay. Well, talk about how you met them and how this fit in ways that, say, other collaborations didn't fit.
Yeah.
How did you meet them?
So, not necessarily that the other collaborations didn't work. It's more that, stuff changes, lifestyle, work, living, that kind of thing gets in the way sometimes. But how did I meet those guys? So I actually had taken a little bit of a break from music for a year or two since I moved to the US, actually. Okay. And as anyone who's moved abroad will know, or really moved anywhere, I suppose, it's quite hard and it takes time to adjust.
Yeah. Especially New York.
Oh, God, it's so expensive here. What is going on? It's crazy. So all of that kind of took my breath away. It took my breath away in so many ways. I love it here. It's just an incredible city. Just so full of diversity and really incredible, exciting people with big ideas. Yeah. Some people who execute on them, some people who don't and crumble, and it's this sort of hustle of the city. It's great. I love it.
See, I would imagine that's how, never been there, but I would imagine that's how London is. It's a version of New York.
I would say London is similar, but it's kind of like I think someone said it was almost like the older sister of New York.
Okay.
Who's just kind of already done that, and, you know, she's kind of tired. She wants to settle down a little bit quiet. You know. Trains do run 24 hours on some lines now, but, you know, the last train's at midnight, need to go home.
Okay.
Whereas New York just doesn't sleep, and she's still partying till 5 in the morning, and then she goes gets breakfast.
Okay, she just doesn't care.
She just doesn't care.
So getting adjusted to New York, were you worried about if you were going to go back to music? Was that a concern?
No, I think it's always been something that I wanted to get back to, but I think there were a couple of projects where I wasn't really, you know, feeling like it was really working, and I had the opportunity to move here. I was like, well, I'll try that, and I'm quite single-minded, so I can multitask to an extent, but I can only usually concentrate on one big thing at a time.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to focus on moving here and getting my feet on the ground. And so by the time I felt like, okay, now I'm ready, maybe I should try and reach out and see if there are any musicians out there. I didn't know anybody when I moved here, so I just went online.
Okay. Craigslist? Or
yeah, I think it was some Craigslist ad. I can't remember exactly. You know, just scour those listings, and if you hear something, a demo on there that you kind of like, you go, yeah, hey, sure, you know, this, listen to a couple of my demos, see if you like what you hear. And so I went to this audition, and that's where I met Howard, who was the drummer in this band. So that didn't really work out, but actually Howard got back to me a couple of months later and said, hey, I actually have another project that I'm doing, and we've already written a couple of songs. We just want some vocals on it. I think they were going to use it for commercial purposes or something. Okay. So how would you, you know, do you want to collaborate with us on this? And I said, sure. So I went along, we went into the studio, recorded, and it was great. We just had so much fun. And then when it was done, we kind of looked at each other and were like, should we just do another one? Yeah. Let's just do another one, and then just do another one. And so then we ended up with like a few more songs, but it was very interesting because the first song was a relatively pop, I guess more pop than avant-pop. It was more pop. It was more of a pop song. On the spectrum, it was more of a pop song. And so I think as we were working together, it slowly became more whatever this is supposed to be called, avant. Yeah. More avant than pop. And we found a really happy place, and we were really excited by the sound. And here we are now.
And what are you looking for the EP? What can we expect from this EP?
What can you expect from it? Gosh. Well, I think there are certain themes that I like to write about, and for me, I mentioned I was a quiet child, but I think you know, sometimes I would struggle with trying to communicate with people because I was so shy as a child, and also I feel like people who become artists or musicians, I think they become those kinds of creative people because it's a way of expressing themselves. And then I think importantly, it's not only a way to express yourself, but it's also a way to communicate with other people. And, you know, if you've grown up thinking maybe you feel misunderstood, no one quite gets who I am, but then if you can paint something and people can look at it and go, oh, I like that painting, I like what you're trying to, I can't say in words what that is, but I feel something, I feel what it is that you're saying, and I think it's the same with music. So I think there are lots of themes of human connection, you know, sometimes distance that you feel between people, and people's perceptions of each other, how you perceive other people, what you want them to think about you and what you think about everything outside of your own body and your own self. Some kind of, I guess, philosophical themes like that. And all tinged with a little bit of loneliness, I suppose. Sometimes I think that you use tools as a form of self-expression, but only you really know what you're thinking.
Yeah. You don't know what people are going to take away from
but I
your
think
art.
Exactly, but I think that's the beauty of it. You can never really 100% understand each other, and that's okay. That brings diversity, and that brings intrigue into the world.
Okay. And when did you realize that your art could be a way to communicate with people?
I think I learned that as a child from a very young age, because I was too shy to talk to anybody, so I just had my head down and drew. And then maybe I would show somebody my picture and they go, "Oh, that's great. What is that you've done?" So I think it's always been something that I've known has been a tool for talking to people.
You still consider yourself shy?
I think inside, I'm probably a very awkward, shy, possibly, awkward, shy, timid person. But you can't really function like that in the world. And you have to work, you have to earn money, you have to pay your bills. And so I think probably with all adults, you build up this version of yourself that you believe is the version that it should be.
Okay, yeah.
So that you can function and be accepted in life. But sometimes I just feel like, I wish I could just walk around with eyeballs hanging off my ears and not really care whether people are going to look at me funny. I feel quite comfortable in my monster costume. And it's funny.
You have a wonderful, I wouldn't even say costume, I would just say outfit.
It's just my outfit, like my Saturday night gear. Yeah. I do feel quite at home dressed like this. Sometimes I have to wear a suit at work, and I think that's more of a costume for me. But I really enjoy it. I think it's like pretending to be an adult, pretending to be a real person.
Okay. Does it feel false because I'm many ways shy, does it feel false for you to have to put on that extrovert face when you go out into the world to make things happen?
Well, yeah, exactly. You need to make things happen, right? It doesn't feel false. I think people are very multidimensional, multifaceted, and people do whatever they need to survive. I mean, I'm not necessarily introverted only either. I really enjoy the company of other people. I really like spending time with people and talking about what they've done in their lives. And I'm fascinated when I meet somebody and think, how did you get here?
Yeah.
What were the choices that you made that mean that you're sitting in front of me right now and telling me these things about yourself? Whether they're good or bad things, I think it's fascinating.
And how do you get to that with people? I mean, see, in this format of interviewing, I get to find that out. But I think on a day-to-day basis, we often don't do that because we aren't listening or asking the right questions.
Yeah.
So how do you get to that with people?
How do I get to that with people?
What is your secret?
Oh, I like to think I'm a good listener. I like to
That's key.
Hear people's stories. And like I said, whether I agree with them or not, I think there's always something that I can learn, whether it's I don't want to be like that, or wow, I never saw the world in that way before. That's kind of incredible. That's blown my mind away. I just like to listen. Yeah, and I think it might be because I didn't necessarily feel that heard when I was younger. I just didn't really feel like maybe people really got where I was trying to come from. And so I think I'm quite conscious. I try my best to, I don't always get it right, but I try my best to listen and try to hear the true voice behind what somebody's trying to tell me. It may, if someone says they're fine, but clearly they aren't. I try my best, and I won't dig if it's inappropriate, but just be there for that person if I can. And I think those are some of the things that I like to write about too. Just trying to find that connection with someone, and see whether see whether I actually got it right or not.
Yeah. And I hear you, because in so many ways I wasn't heard as a child, so I feel like I'm hyper aware of...
Well, that's why you're doing this, right?
Yes. And to be able to hear people, I've always said that one of the greatest things you can give to people is to listen to them, to hear them.
Yeah. And I think it's just about respect. If you really respect your fellow human being, you listen to what they're trying to say. And, it doesn't matter if you don't agree. You just don't force yourself on that person.
Yeah. So talk about the music video.
The music video.
Yes.
Oh, so that was that was fun filming.
For the first song, which is called
A New Century Meet.
Yes.
Which was just I just liked the way that phrase sounded, and I saw it on a sign somewhere in Brooklyn.
Okay.
So I think there's actually a place that's called that. Maybe they'll like the song. I don't know. So the music video, we just really done the first version of that song. And I feel like it naturally kind of evolved into this slightly neo-dystopian, Blade Runner-esque, I want to say, if that's not bigging it up too much.
Yeah.
In my mind, when I listened to the sounds that came from that song, I could really see the neon lights of Hong Kong.
Okay.
And I was lucky enough that I was actually going to Hong Kong on a work trip. So very, very last minute, I called my friend who was going to be there when I was going to be in Hong Kong. And I said, hey, do you have a camera?
Yeah.
Do you have a camera? And also, would you be free on Sunday? And he was like, sure. So I packed my costume in my suit, in half of my suitcase, because it's kind of big. It's got big parts everywhere sticking out, and loads of glitter and fur and just crap everywhere.
It's a full deal.
Yeah. There was no real story like when I make animations or I write I do write stories and things like that. I like to think there's a bit more thought behind it. But it was more like, I'm going to Hong Kong. Oh, the song, maybe, okay, that could work.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit of a on the fly kind of thing. But it was very interesting because we went down to have you ever been to Hong Kong?
No, I haven't.
So Temple Street in Hong Kong has a night market where people just go, and it's mostly hustling and bustling with food stalls and like gift stores all out in the street. I'd been to Hong Kong, so whenever I go to Japan to see my friends and family, I try to do a layover in Hong Kong because I just think it's such an incredible city with amazing food, really great people, so much energy, very different kind of energy from the other cities that I've been in. And that Temple Street night market just is this very visually, I don't know how to describe it. It's a visual feast.
Okay.
With all the neon and the food and the smells and the fruit and the people. It's just this incredible place. So we just sort of rocked up. I was in costume. Jimmy, who is the who filmed the video, we just both rocked up, just the two of us, and I was just myself in that space, and it was very interesting because I think when the people of Hong Kong see me, they know I'm not from there. Yeah. Not necessarily just because of the costume, but they know they kind of guess that I'm not Chinese or from Hong Kong for some reason. Even though I guess, when you're in New York, it's like, are you Korean, Chinese, Japanese? What are you? I don't know. And I'm like, it's complicated. So the Hong Kong people wouldn't say anything to me because they just assumed I couldn't speak Cantonese.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would get loads of tourists because Temple Street Night Market is a tourist spot.
Yeah.
You would get all these tourists, a lot of American tourists, being like, "Hey, Janet, check this girl out." Like right next to me, assuming that I can't speak English.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So I was in this funny little bubble where no one would talk to me, but they would follow me around everywhere.
Okay.
Because they just assumed that I couldn't speak. It was like I was a real alien. And I just thought it was really interesting how people would interact with this creature that was just prowling around the streets, looking kind of aggressive, a little bit scary, but then everybody realizing, well, she's not scary, but she's something it's kind of, I don't know what it is, but I want to just interact. And so the video has a few scenes where people just want to take selfies with you, or they just, a lot of it is just the way people react naturally. Was really, it was really fun. I felt like I was being myself to an extent, this shy, awkward person inside this slightly hideous, but I'm comfortable in my skin of shell. And then the way people would interact with you was, it felt really natural. And even though there was really no strong concept other than, oh, cool, maybe I'll film it in Hong Kong. When we actually got there, I felt like some of the footage that we got interacting with all the people that we met, it was quite, there was a strong correlation with the lyrical aspects, the themes that I like to write about. I also, think a lot about identity, when you come from... when you're kind of everywhere and your identity is sort of split in all places, I think it's very interesting thinking about and discussing topics like that too, especially now that people are becoming so global, moving around everywhere, intercultural, interracial marriages, and people who literally are half or quarter something or something. I think it's a really fascinating topic, and what does it mean to be X and X, and what do you identify with, what makes you happy, what makes you comfortable. I have a half Japanese friend who lives out in California, and she's like, I'm so white. I don't even like sushi. I just think that's so funny,
And it's like, okay, so you're you, and then whatever people bring
exactly
to you.
You're just you. You're just you. You just happen to be born with a particular look, skin type, accent. Yeah.
And you do it well. I think you're doing it great. Yes. And you have a time frame for when the EP's coming out? Still working on it?
We're working on it at the moment. We're aiming for the end of this year.
Okay.
So
very soon.
I hope so.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
End of this year? Well, maybe. I don't know, guys. What do you think? Realistically, beginning of this year. We'll see. We'll try.
Okay.
I'm pretty good with deadlines.
Soonish.
I'm pretty good with deadlines.
Okay. So then that sounds like a contract.
Yes.
Best place for people to check you out online, listen to your music.
So I'm very active on Instagram. Like I mentioned, like you mentioned, I'm a visual artist.
Yes.
So
they can see your great art.
Thank you. Yes. On Instagram, I'm there as Gocco Life at Gocco Life, GOCCOLIFE. You can also find me on Facebook. And through there, I have a website, which is gocco.life. And you can access the SoundCloud, where we've got the track New Century Meet on. And, of course, the YouTube link as well, where you can see the full video shot in Hong Kong on Temple Street Night Market.
Okay. And I will put all that in the show notes for people to check out.
Yay.
And I'm saying it right. Gocco, is that right?
Gocco. It can be anything. Yeah.
Gocco, okay.
It's I think it's it doesn't matter how you pronounce it. It is actually a Japanese word.
Okay, and what does it mean?
It means I guess it means pretend play, make believe. But when you play doctors and nurses when you're a kid, and you play doctors and nurses. So the word Gocco, you can add that onto anything. So,
Okay.
Oisha-san, doctor, Oisha-san Gocco would be pretend playing doctors, or anything, Otona Gocco. So, otona means adult. You can pretend to be an adult. Anything. I just like the sound. I like the look of the word. And I think it has so many possibilities. You can pretend, inverted commas, or you can really be anything you want.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, boys.
This was a pleasure.
Nice to meet you.
Same here.
Nice.
Give me a body so
And there you have it, my conversation with Gocco. That was her music, New Century Meet. Go to her website, gocco.life. I am online at talkmusictalk.com for more podcast information and to stream every single episode. I am also on Instagram at This Is Boice, so follow me there. I have some call to actions for you. If you enjoyed this episode, do me a big favor. Please share it on social media, maybe email it to a friend, or leave a 5-star rating and or review wherever you happen to be listening, especially on iTunes, because this all helps to grow the Talk Music Talk audience. Also, download the Talk Music Talk app. It is free for iPhone and Android, and you can get it wherever you like to get your apps, or you can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and pretty much everywhere. You can also find the podcast on SoundCloud, starting with episode 100. That's soundcloud.com/This Is Boice, starting with episode 100. You can also find my music there. The album with Howard Alper, who introduced me to Gocco. How to Be an Adult is the album, so check that out. Thank you so much for listening. Till next time, and there will be a next time. This one's for you, Liz.